Emerging out of the nightmare abyss of the piney woods of East Texas. The Random Horror Show. The best in commentary and reviews in horror, sci-fi, fantasy, cult classics, and the obscure from film, television shows, and literature. Join our horror hostess, Keisha Lacey, as she is scary, but random, horrific, but funny. Last but not least, she will chill you to the bone.
Welcome back to the Random Horror Show. I am your horror hostess, Keisha Lacey, coming straight out of the Iron Pine Curtain, better known as East Texas. And here at the Random Horror Show, where we commentate being silly and such with horror, science fiction, fantasy, cult classics, and the obscure in movies, television shows, books, and sometimes we throw a little guest or two up in this bitch. And y'all, I'm glad y'all doing all right. Thank you for just joining me. But I have the most amazing show for y'all. If y'all have not caught the waves of this film that just hit theaters last week, it is Godzilla Minus One. It slipped under the radar for a lot of us, but I'm going to give like a shout out to Mark Miner for like broadcasting and putting me on this plug of this film. It is a wonderful film. And guess who is here on the show? I have my guest first time on this motherfucking bitch, and he from the Iron Pine Curtain, his motherfucking self. Everybody, Karate Man, aka Zach. Hey, how you doing?
Well, I'm actually quite fantastic. I appreciate the awesome intro, and I know I've been anticipating getting on this show for a long time, and I can't think of a better way to get on it than via a Godzilla movie. So I'm very excited about all that. I think it's a really good combination of events that's led up to this episode. So I think we're gonna have a good one.
Yes, yes. I'm excited to talk about this film. And of course, I'm gonna let y'all know if you have not watched Godzilla Minus One, do not listen to this podcast because this is going to be full of nothing but spoilers in here. But if you have watched it and you love the shit out of it, I give it a 10 out of 10. Listen to this sucker because we're going to be ripping and running and stomping all over Tokyo and everywhere else and everything because Godzilla was a motherfucking street menace. Bruh. So, what you think about it?
Well, Lord, where do I start? I was incredibly pleasantly surprised over that movie. Um, After having been let down by King of the Monsters, granted, of course, different studio, different group of people and everything,
Mhm.
you get a little gun
Mhm.
shy, especially when there's a series you've liked your whole life, especially with the trend in Hollywood where a lot of, long loved series and whatnot are kind of getting sold up the river now. You always get a little antsy about that sort of thing. But yeah, no, that was a Godzilla movie if I've ever seen one before. It was damned good, and I was incredibly impressed by it. Incredibly pleasantly surprised.
I was impressed by it too because when Mark put it out on Facebook about this movie, and I was like, holy shit, you telling me there is a Godzilla movie? And so when I checked it out, it was like in the matinee. I was by myself, and of course, I get real extra in the theater. And I know I was like texting you, like, "Oh my god, look at this motherfucking right here!" I'm like going all wild. But when I watched it, I mean, it's 2 hours, and I literally just had like chills up my spine. I was in fear. I felt like so much emotion from the characters. I was yelling. The freaking music, what got me, and I was sitting there just punk rock with it. I'm like, this movie is punk rock, and it gave me everything as a moviegoer and a Godzilla fan, and it just brought me back to sticking to hardcore Godzilla movies of the 50s and the 60s, and that's the reason why I gave it a 10 out of 10.
Yeah, I'd
It
definitely give
really
it a
did.
2 out of 10. Or on the Karate Man scale, we do fives, 5 out of 5. But yeah, same difference, fractions.
Boo.
But
You could have went up. You could have went up a little bit more, but I'll just give it a 5 out of 5.
but what I was gonna say was, piggybacking off what you said about the old '50s movies, especially the first three.
Mhm,
I honestly feel like, okay, so I think there's two different styles of Godzilla movies. If you really look at the series as a whole, they basically
mhm,
have the disaster movie, and then they have the
mhm.
superhero movie. That's kind of the two categories that I put them off into. And that's not to say that the ones where he's good are the superhero ones, the ones where he's bad are the disaster ones. But what I mean is, there's the ones where it's just Godzilla and humans, like the very first one, and then there's ones where it's Godzilla and some other kaiju. And
Right.
the distinction to make between those really is, what you can do with the story. Uh, Most people probably are already familiar. No reason to reiterate it, but most people are familiar with the fact that the first movie it involved a lot of social commentary in Japan post World War II, a lot of allegories with atomic war and everything. And if if you just go out and say you're going to make a movie that makes those allegories in 2023, it's going to seem like it'd be very culturally irrelevant. But I like how this movie, basically, as far as I'm concerned, this was a reboot of the very first movie times 10. They basically
Right.
did everything the first movie ever did, but
Mhm.
what I really like about it is they actually made it relevant to a timeless audience. So yes, it is World War II, that is the setting, but anyone with military experience, anyone with PTSD, anyone that's lost a loved one, anyone that's lived in a natural disaster, it kind of umbrellas over a lot of those different parts of the human condition. And so I was very impressed with how they did that. As soon as all the themes started kind of coming into it, I realized that this was definitely one of the more serious ones rather than one of the sillier, funnier ones, which I like both. I'm a Godzilla fan to the core. I love the fact that Godzilla as a character is so versatile because
Mhm.
you've literally seen him be evil, you've seen him be good, you've literally seen him win, you've seen him lose. He even dies a few times in some of his movies, and I love that
He had a
versatility.
baby.
It's
He had a baby. He had a
a
son.
father. Yeah, yeah, exactly. So I love that versatility in a character and the fact that you can do so much with that. And one thing that most American franchises, they fetishize continuity so much to the point where you just can't make a fun story. And I love that flexibility that the Godzilla series has. And I think another serious installment was really good. And I'll be honest with you, I think, far as I'm concerned, in my world, this movie Godzilla Minus One basically replaces the first one completely. I mean, I think in a good way it makes the original obsolete, which I think is the how would you say it? That's kind of the oh Lord, I wish we weren't live. I wish we were rehearsing, but you want to go live with it. No, but I think that's what makes it good. Is if you can make your previous product obsolete, and I think it really stresses all the original ideas that Godzilla was originally built on. And I guess my biggest part I want to tie into that is what I like about it is contrasting this one off of the sillier, goofier ones. Is this is a serious enough and well put together enough movie that like an actual moviegoer that's not a Godzilla fan could appreciate. Because
Correct.
like the silly, goofy, more B-rated, more out there ones, I like because I'm a Godzilla fan. I'm also a B-movie fan. But like someone who only wants to see cinematic masterpieces and Oscar winners would be equally as satisfied by this movie. And I think it bridges the gap between regular people, the normies, and the Godzilla weirdos like myself.
I don't think you're a Godzilla weirdo or whatever, but
Just
there's like so many fans. You're not a Godzilla weirdo. Oh my gosh, because all of us have grew up watching Godzilla from the old movies, the silly ones, the what the roar, all that shit, on a Saturday, or like, like after Saturday morning cartoons, it catch like a matinee or like one of those late evening movies. I know Spenguli, he does like throw in a Godzilla movie, monster movies. Even from like different personalities, like horror personalities, like Elvira, she throws in like the B movies. And then, of course, you have like Mystery Science Theater. They throw in some like crazy movies too. But all of us have grew up watching Godzilla movies. And when I seen this film, and I was just so amazed of like everything this cinematic, and of course you touched on about how wartime is, and of course my grandfather Big Daddy, he was a Korean war vet, and so the character, what's his name, I'm gonna call him Steve. I can't pronounce his like
Yeah,
Japanese name. I'm gonna
she.
call him Steve.
I'm not gonna
I'm gonna
even
call
butcher his last name. Exactly. Yes, main character.
I'm gonna call his ass Steve. I'm gonna call his ass Steve.
Steve, fair enough.
Because Steve done seen some shit. Steve seen
He had.
Godzilla. Steve was shaken to the core, not only just from war, but just seeing this huge ass kaiju come and destroy everything. He had nightmares, just not for wartime, but it opens up of like how we romanticize World War II. And I was one of those people that romanticized World War II, but I had to come back to my senses and just look at the stark reality of war. War is shit. It is devastating. But you seeing like how the village was, even the older lady, she shunned him, saying that, because he was a kamikaze fighter and he didn't die. And she was like, look at you, motherfucker. You didn't do what your country needs for you to do. And he felt shame, and he seen like the devastation. She lost her children, he lost his parents. I mean, he lost everybody like in that village, and they had to rebuild. And I like the young girl that was in the story. I'm gonna call her Nina.
Yeah,
And of
me.
course she, was running through the village, and you seen like how everybody there, it doesn't matter if they were a farmer or they worked in an office. I mean, you even seen some ladies of the evening walking through there too. And I was like, oh, I noticed that. But you see all of them, conglomerate like in that little village, trying to struggle and survive. Even she gave them the prize rice and everything for money. And then here she comes with this baby. He's holding the baby and he don't know what to do with it. And he walks off, and she's like, oh, you idiot. You should have like gave me the baby. I was waiting for you, because she was evading, arrest or whatever. I don't know. I know she stole something, but it just letting us know she stole something. But he was like, hey, come chill with me. But at first he was like, nah, you can't stay. You and the baby can stay for a little bit. But it turned into, they became a family. But I also seen his struggle of where he was like, I don't know about this, but I guess I let her stay. And then it was like a year or two, you can start seeing the village rebuild itself. It's still in shambles because of wartime. And then my grandfather told me that whenever they went over there to Germany after World War II, how he was part of the reconstruction.
Mhm.
He never talked too much about it, but he was letting us know that a lot of them that were, have houses been bombed, lost families and everything, how they were happy to see them helping them out. And I got to thinking about my grandfather, watching this film. But we seen Steve, he was going through all kinds of emotions. And I mean, he had a bad dream about Godzilla coming through, destroying the village. I mean,
Mhm.
he was going through a lot of hell, the PTSD from all the wartime, then seeing Godzilla destroy like half the platoon and the village. And, and it was so amazing how they had like the village that he was in, where they was fixing the pot, the pile, what do you call them, the planes and shit,
Yeah,
that
mechanic,
village.
the
And they
plane.
had like that, yeah, and they had like that little mythos, that little legend of this creature coming out of the water. And at first, like, they're not believing it because they feel like, oh, these are just some village people, spooky, like superstition and things like that. And then all of a sudden, boom, here comes Godzilla, like showing his face. He's like, oh, I'm here, bitches. That's like how Godzilla was. And that's when he started to believe, like, oh shit, not only I'm like a kamikaze fighter that did not die for my country, Japan, and then I got to come back home and see devastation. But I also seen the devastation and the monstrosity of this strange being is just going rampant.
Yeah.
It was like a motherfucker on him. It really was. But one thing that I like about is the color changes. You see monochrome colors in this film. And it really fit the mood of like the whole environment to the actors of their emotions and everything else. And I noticed that and I was like, oh my God, look at the colors. They really did a excellent, brilliant job of using these monotone, monochromatic colors whenever Godzilla came in. You seen like how the weather was changing. Did you notice that?
Oh yeah, definitely. Um, I really like that, and to kind of tie in with what you're talking about, him and the being a kamikaze and sneaking out of that, shooting Godzilla on the island, and his whole internal struggle with eventually planning on kamikazing into him. That they say there's only so many stories that exist in the world,
Hmm.
and after so often they get repeated. And
Hmm.
I couldn't help but keep thinking the whole Jonah and the whale from the Bible sort of thing the whole time. And it's like his whale is literally his own insecurities, his own cowardice, and then Godzilla destroying everything is literally a physical manifestation of his internal struggle becoming reality for all these other people that were innocent bystanders.
Right, right. Let's like talk about like the actors and actresses. I cannot pronounce their names, but they did an excellent job. I was dead ass tripping because like in every Godzilla movie, you always like have like the scientist with the wavy hair and the
Yeah,
and I was like cracking up laughing. And that guy really did play the hell out of that. And but it was
yeah.
like there was like the characters they the from the actors and actresses they really did portray their characters to a T. I had like two crushes on
But
two of the characters myself, but they really did an excellent job of just with these characters because they fleshed them out throughout this 2 hour movie, and it was like no crumb left. I mean, they literally ate. Even Godzilla ate.
yeah,
Literally and physically, but these actors literally ate their role and no crumb left because we I fell in love. There are likable characters. I fell in love with all of the characters. They showed so
yeah.
much emotion. They really did. And with me, like, as I love foreign horror films, and one film that stood out the most to me is Train to Busan, and which was made in Korea. And it's a zombie movie. And they literally put the fucking E in emotion because I did nothing but snot cry all through Train to Busan. And with this film right here, I had tears in my eyes. I did. It was like my heart was breaking on a couple of scenes,
Oh yeah. One of the
especially
things that I
when
noticed right out the gate
Mhm.
was about the time he got a Kiko. We can say that character's name, right? The little baby girl. When Steve
we're gonna say Kiki.
Kiki, okay,
We're gonna
yes,
call her
Kiki.
Kiki.
That's right. So when Steve and what did we name the other woman?
We're gonna call her Nina.
Yeah, Nina. When Steve and Nina got Kiki, something really kind of magical happened that really, okay, so like even in the serious Godzilla movies, most of the time I'm usually just rooting for Godzilla or the monsters per se. but I'm really not. I'm pretty indifferent to the suffering of the humans, to be quite frank. But these people actually won me over. Like this was the first time I think in a Godzilla movie, even in the serious ones, I actually gave a shit about like, oh man, when Nina gets swept by the windstorm and you think she's dead, I'm like, damn. I actually really kind of wanted her to live for a change. I wasn't just like laughing. Now I won't lie, I did laugh quite a bit when the dudes on the island got killed, but that's because the tone of the movie hasn't been set yet. The tone, because you still at that point. Which, by the way, another thing I got to point out that's really good about this movie is you get to see Godzilla within the first 20 minutes of the movie, and that is
Mm-hmm.
something that I can say even a lot of good Godzilla movies did not do as well as this one did. And but
Right.
anyway, yeah. So the tone of the movie is really not set in the opening scene. So when he's still on the island, you still kind of really don't have any mercy for the people. You kind of laugh when he stomps them. But by
That.
the time you meet Kiki and Nina and all that, you've really grown attached. Like they did a good job of not making an overcomplicated human story, but a simple but deep one. And I absolutely love that part because you really get invested in these people and you don't want them to die, which is a totally different spin. But it's not like how King of the Monsters, however many years ago that one was, they made, and I've always told everyone this complaint with King of the Monsters was the humans are the absolute main characters in the movie, and all you're
Mm-hmm.
focusing on is the dude's alcoholism and his ex-wife and his kids and all this stuff. And Godzilla's just a backdrop, that barely even really is relevant to that. Whereas,
Mm-hmm.
I don't know, I make the joke all the time about that movie. I said, what the biggest problem with that movie is? You know who the main character in a Godzilla movie is supposed to be? It's fucking Godzilla, not dude and chick. That the story's going around. But with that being said, in this movie with Steve and Nina, you actually don't mind them sharing as much, if not more, the main chunk of the story than the actual lizard himself. So I think
Right.
they really did the impossible with that. And I think it was a very beautiful thing they could make happen with that between all the aforementioned stuff we talked about with the war stuff, PTSD stuff, internal struggle, and I think that part was genius. I also love the economic political commentary, which really shocked me coming from a Japanese movie because I'm not familiar with Japanese politics, nor do I see a relevance to do so. But the fact that they even stress about how much better the private sector is than the public sector when the government fails to protect them from Godzilla, and they all put together. So I thought that was a surprising yet pleasant little piece of commentary that I did not expect in the movie.
Mm-hmm. That was like I'm not really big into politics and stuff, but I noticed that because they had like a private citizens to come and step to the plate.
Well,
And
all I
there
can
was a
say
lot of
is
it.
someone putting forth that radical of an idea never get published in American Hollywood. But bravo to Japan for allowing them to speak some truth on economics. So I think that's pretty awesome in its own right. But
Yeah, yeah, but
anyway,
like
though, real quick while I'm thinking about it, on the ending, I absolutely love the ending, and I love how it kind of goes with his whole struggle of thinking that his destiny was to kill himself. And then the mechanic even realizes, look, you need to live for this girl, live for your country, live for your people. And I think that was an interesting thing because it almost shows how he's locked into his pride to the point where he feels like he needs to die, but then now he's conflicted
mhm,
with, but he also wants to survive for Akiko. And it, like you were saying about how war can be so bad, but I love how it also stresses how war is an inevitability of the human condition. And it's almost
mhm,
like you have to make these sorts of decisions to the point of, okay, either I guess you could say picking the lesser of the two evils, so to speak.
mhm. Yeah,
I
like
like the
back to
Godzilla
that
origin
point.
ring because then at least we can get a couple more movies out of him in this series also.
Yeah, back to that point of what you said. Like, yes, it was very genius for them to like throw that in, but though like you had some of the people who signed up for the whole let's get Godzilla using the Freon. I love like how they mashed the technology with it of like that time. And then you had them, they're like, look, we just got out of a war and I don't know, there was some that walked off and you feel for them too because you understood that point. And then there was some like, you know what, fuck it. We're gonna do this damn thing. And I love like how they all got together to make sure that they don't want another devastation of Godzilla, just doing the same crooked ass like Panky off of next Friday where my money? Big Godzilla was coming up in there like a street menace, just asking everybody for his money. He was like pimp slapping cars, the train. I mean, he had like Nina, and Nina was like, "Shit, I'm just trying to get to work." And she's
Um,
like, "Oh crap!" And Godzilla say, "No, you ain't going to work because you owe me money." I
yep.
mean, that whole scene right there with the whole train. Oh my gosh, my eyes welled up, and I was holding my breath in that scene. And of course, when Nina pushed Steve out the way when Godzilla did his little funky breath attack, like you need a tic tac, your breath like thunder, and he blew everybody away, and everybody just went whoo, blow your house down. And I seen that she pushed him out, and I was like, oh my god, girl, why you do that? You know what I'm saying? I was like thinking to myself, like you should have just like hit with Steve, but she was like, I'm just gonna push him out the way. I'm just gonna take the brunt of this shit and everything. It was like a self-sacrifice, but later on in the movie we find out that she is alive. But I'm gonna ask you this question. Did you notice when he went to go see her, he bust down crying? And that's the one thing I loved about this is that I'm seeing dudes cry up in here. And I was like, hell yeah, like show some fucking emotion. I love that right there. And did you
Mm.
see that ending? Did you see the ending? Did you catch it?
I did. Um, I never would have saw it coming like it did, though. I was very surprised. I honestly had thought she was dead.
I honestly thought she was dead too. But I mean, it had like that happy moment, but then again, it's like that same thing with every horror film because, like, this is a monster film, but it also has that horror with it. Is that, oh, look, it's a meadow, everybody's playing or talking and having a good time, and then the camera pans off, and then it's like evil lurking, coming about, getting ready to like, destroy again, cause havoc. But when I seen that part on Nina, and I was like, holy crap, we're gonna have a sequel. And guess what? They are gonna be doing a sequel to this film.
Excellent.
They are going to do a sequel to this film because it left a cliffhanger for us because we're just like, yay, everything is like all like that. And then of course we see Godzilla, he's kind of like looking like some nasty ass amoeba little bullshit in the water. And then he's regenerated. And I'm just like, holy crap, this opens up for another one. And I'm can't wait for another movie like this of this epic proportion, and they need to like literally go way above and beyond and over the top like they did in this first one.
Yeah.
And I can't wait. I
I'm excited.
really cannot wait. But I was so dead ass when they were getting the bombs out of the water, and there's Godzilla, and I love like how you have the dead fish popping up in the water, and they're just like, wait a minute. And Steve was like, yo, is this monster and everything? And I seen it, and there was like dead fish popping up and everything. This dude is coming. So when Godzilla presented himself like to the guys that was out there picking up these bombs and destroying them, and he shot that, he Godzilla got the bomb in his mouth, and he's like, pew, he's like pew pew like that. And what really just had me just saying, holy shit, is when he shot the bomb. The bomb went off in his mouth, and I'd be damn. The Godzilla regenerated. I was like, you got to be kidding me. That part blew me away. My heart was beating. My heart was beating so fast when I seen it, and I love that. What do you
Yeah.
think about that? I love that. I was just like, holy crap. I'm like, he is just a street menace coming after everybody. Oh
Well,
my God. That was amazing right there because we expect like, oh, he shot Godzilla in the mouth, then Godzilla gonna go, oh, I'm hurt, oh my God, I'm gonna go back in the water and just not mess with y'all. Godzilla said, y'all shot me in my motherfucking mouth, bitch, I'm coming after you. And that's exactly what he did. Ooh, he was angry. Ooh, Godzilla was ashy. Ooh, he was ashy. Oh,
he
but I
was.
loved it. I loved every moment of it. What did you think about like the whole Freon situation, what they did with Godzilla? Oh, that was so intense. My booty hole was clenched up at that part. What you think
Mine
about that
too.
part?
Well, mine too. Actually, every time.
My booty hole was clenched up. And when the ships was like coming towards each other, even though they missed each well, they didn't miss each other, but they and I was like, I'm like, please don't die, please don't die. And it which takes us back to how you felt like with every Godzilla movie, you didn't care about the human characters dying, you laughed at it. But this one right here, you actually cared about everybody in this movie because you want them to survive. But yeah, that part had my booty hole clenched, and I felt like they did a really good job. And plus, the whole fucking scene of it. I mean, it gets you in. It brought me into me sitting there right there with them on this ship. They doing a damn thing to like contain Godzilla, and I was right there with them, and that's like how I want to feel when I'm watching a film in a theater, is that I want to be right there. And this movie really did put me in that situation just like them. I wasn't just like a bystander or whatever. I'm right there with them. I'm speaking Japanese and everything else. I'm like, I'm with y'all. I'm with y'all. So, since this movie it has a lot of subtitles and everything, how do you feel about like how some people they kind of bitch about like sub movies that are subtitles because it's a foreign film? But I feel
Well,
that like if you can't fucking read and keep up and everything, then this is not the movie for you. Maybe you need to turn on dub. It doesn't have that same effect, but I've been watching
so
anime for a long time, so I'm
first
used to
of
it.
all, for the record, um, me obviously subtitles don't bother me in the least bit. I can keep up, but with that being said, I do think that is a shortcoming of this movie, and I'll explain why. Uh, Mind the fact that earlier I said one of the beauties of this movie is it bridges the gap between Godzilla fans and casual moviegoers. And I do think, and there's a couple different ways you could argue subtitles. Should they be tolerable? Should they not? But aside from that, general population wise, it is a lack of creature comfort because you do have to, if you're not used to doing them, then it does become a thing for people. Um, it can deteriorate a little bit of that bridge between normal moviegoers and people that are used to watching things like anime or foreign films or something. So I definitely would consider the use of subtitles a loss as a negative in the movie. It's not a deal breaker, and I don't think it'd even be a deal breaker for a casual normie type. But I would consider that a slight negative on it. Again, for me personally, and it doesn't really bother me personally, but I can I would definitely consider it a strike against the movie though.
I don't consider it as a strike against the movie. And of course, in my humble opinion, I don't give a shit about anybody else that just doesn't give a damn about movies with subtitles. I felt that like the whole subtitles, like in the movie, is actually a plus because it's
Mhm.
made in Japan. Godzilla started in Japan. and I'm going to stick to what the fuck I said, and I said what I said, and I meant what I meant. And of course, like for some people, yeah, there's some people who don't uh really, like vibe with movies with subtitles. And of course, like when it comes out on DVD, your still box or like streaming services, you can always dub it, you know what I'm saying? But I feel that it does give like an authentic appeal to the film of having subtitles because it's made in Japan. And if it would have been in English, I would have been okay, but I felt that the way how foreign films. I want to be invested in a foreign film, even if it has subtitles or not. I still want to hear the native language of it. I want to see the native culture of it. I like to see a film that is different from an American film. And I just feel that, like, I just appreciate the whole thing, this whole simplicity of it and everything. And I would not change a damn thing about it having subtitles because I freaking loved it.
Yeah.
I really do. I really do. And and I feel that, like, when I read an article in New York Post that it's actually number two in the box office. Hooray for this film to come out, and that everybody is like so superly pleased. I mean, they interview people from different age ranges, couples, singles, 20s, people in their 30s, 50s, and everything else. And they love this film. And there was one guy said, I give it a 10 out of 10. Even though this person probably not have watched, I don't know, this person that they interview probably have watched Godzilla movies of the old and the young, and I mean the old and the new ones. And we're not going to be talking about Godzilla's Day Out, like Ferris Bueller's Day Out and
Well,
everything. But
Matthew.
I feel,
Classic.
but I feel that, like, when you have somebody that's not a Godzilla fan, like you stated, they can really enjoy a good Godzilla sci-fi horror monster movie with a very deep, meaningful story, excellent actors, beautifully, just acted with their characters. I mean, you felt like every fucking thing is on fire. You cried. You had maybe like a little, some of them probably had like a little bit of dampness and everything else, but you felt every damn thing in that movie. And I'm just saying, like, this is, to me, this has got to be the best movie of like 2023. And because it's like we had Megan that started off in January, and Megan was a menace herself too. So it was like a really good year for like horror films. And then you ended off with Godzilla Minus One. So I'm like looking at from January to December, and I was like, well, I'll be damned, horror has literally been on some real deal shit this year, because it started off strong with Megan, and then it just blew the doors off with Godzilla Minus One. And I'm just like, dang, this is an awesome time for horror. Last year was awesome time for horror, but this year is really like the best time for horror because we came out Eli Ross Thanksgiving last month. That was, I feel like that is like Godzilla is like nothing but the tree topper of a Christmas tree. And I'm like, yo, this is like so badass that like horror is literally kicking ass this year. It was kicking ass, it was gaining steam, a lot of steam last year, but this year it literally kicked some damn doors off this year. And I applaud, like everybody that has like have their movies out in the horror scene this year. And this one, even for my horror fans, my monsters, my freaks, my fiends out there, do go see this film. I'm arguably the best one of this year. It really is. And it is a cherry on the top of 2023.
Yeah.
Is that cutie? Is
That
that
is.
little cutie? Oh, I can't wait to see Cutie. Oh my god. I just wanna- Oh, he sounds so precious.
He is. Well, hey, I want to say it again before we wrap up or anything. I'm so glad to finally be on here, and I'm looking forward to the next round to get up here. Um, Now, granted, this Kong and Godzilla, what is it, something Empire or something? I know it's not going to be the serious cinematic piece that this was, but I think we should review that next after it comes out next year.
We sure can. We sure can do that right there. And of course, thank you so much for joining me. Like with this commentary on Godzilla Minus One, everybody, this is like nothing but a showstopper. If you're not a Godzilla fan or you're a huge Godzilla fan, I remember I bought you a shirt. I bought you a Godzilla shirt for your birthday.
Hmm.
Do, do you still have it? I know you still repping
Absolutely.
it. But yes, everybody, go check out Godzilla Minus One. And of course, you can find me on IG at The Random Horror Show, Facebook, Threads. Like I said, I'm still slow on downloading that app again. And of course, if you want to drop me a line of to review any of your horror films, it doesn't matter if you're an independent horror movie maker or an actor or whatever, or you just want to drop in and just say hello and just chop the shit up with me and everything. You can drop that at therandomhorrorshow@gmail.com. You got anything to say, Karate Man, before we dip off into the sunset?
I don't think so. Thank you again for having me here. It's been an honor and a lot of fun. And I look forward to the next time. And thank all of you listeners for hearing me out on this. And we'll holler at you soon.
All right, then. Thank you so much. I'm Keisha Lacey, and this is the Random Horror Show. Boom. There we go. Yay. So how did you feel? We don't need to rehearse and everything.
I
But
think
I
that's
know you said I'm gonna cut that part off right there. I was like, we need to rehearse. I'm like, oh my gosh, did he not say rehearse? I'm dead. I'm dead.
I was
No,
teasing that. But yeah.
okay, I'll leave that part in there. But yeah, you did very excellent. One thing kind of don't cut me off and everything because I know like some people kind of notice that like who listen and stuff, but that's okay. This is your first time like on a podcast, and I don't know if it's your first time or whatever, but yeah, I think this is gonna like be really a good episode. Because a lot of times it is unscripted. Like whenever I have guests on here, we usually just ebb and flow with each other. I noticed that you were kind of a little stiff a little bit, but just always loosen up. This is like not to be like all
Next
serious.
time I'll either
It's
burn one or I'll have a couple drinks. How about that?
not you know what? You can have one drink because I actually had some dude. He fixed him a motherfucking drink when I interviewed him about his damn books and stuff, and he was a little flirty with me, and I was like dead ass laughing, and we were talking about asses and stuff, and he's like, my wife just peeked in the office and wondering why I'm talking about butts. I was like, oops,
That's
that's our time to go.
let me get off
But
here
I'm
and
gonna
start
tell you.
down. What's up? Go ahead.
Oh, but I was just saying that, like, like when you say, well, I'm gonna cut that part, like, well, it's time for me to go. I'm just gonna kind of edit that part out and everything because a lot of times, like, if somebody's listening to it, like, well, I'm gonna head off and go, like, people gonna be like, what? Like that. So I'm gonna edit that part out, and usually, because I wasn't gonna hold you very long,
No, I
and
didn't say.
usually.
Remember, I said before we get ready to go. I didn't say I'm
Oh,
getting ready.
don't say that. Don't say that. Don't say that ever. Don't say that. But I was gonna like, I was gonna go ahead and like wrap that up and everything, but don't say like before we get ready to go. Don't say stuff like that. Just like because I'm gonna cut it off. I'm gonna like go ahead and I noticed that like, okay, this is time to like cut it off because I've been doing this for like 3 years now. So I
Yeah.
know when to like pause it and say like, well, it's time to like close out the show. Do you have anything else to say? And let it blah 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 blah. And that's like where it flows naturally and stuff, because I kind of did notice that you were a little stiff. It's like I was like, did he have stage fright? That's the reason why I say like just kind of get like all your nervousness out, because I always get everybody to get their nervousness out, and so it can sound very flowy like throughout the episode, because when you have somebody that's nervous and they're trying to like project a certain way, it kind of comes off like it's pretentious. So that's the reason why I have like a conversation. We get some giggles out, bullshit and everything else, and then we jump into it. So
Okay.
I always like to like prep my guests and everything. And like usually like when Anna joins me or anybody else, we just like have like it's like a party here. It's like a party, and like really you didn't have and I could tell that you was being very respectful and things like that, and I have guests that's really respectful also, but it's like they have like a good time with it, and they're more relaxed, and they're just like, oh no, but I did like it that you actually did got yourself relaxed into it, and you just like, and I was like, damn, that's the Zach that I know. You're like, oh shit, especially like with the dying part and everything. Like, I love that. Like, I literally love that, because that was you. That was like literally you being relaxed and everything else. I can just see that. And I was like, yes, that's like what my audience like. That's what keeps them to listen, is that they like to hear somebody that's really relaxed and everything else. But you kind of kicked in yourself like a little bit, like within 20 minutes, 20, 30 minutes. But
Well,
it's
excellent.
okay. It's okay. It's a little interesting and stuff like that. But hey, you did good, kid. You did good. All
Okay.
right. And you do have to get used to me. Now, this is like how I talk. This is the way how I talk. It's a persona,
Okay.
and this is the way how I talk, and that's the reason why a lot of people tune in to listen to me, because I
Well,
don't give a fuck.
that's
Yeah, I really don't give a fuck whatsoever what I say. And people heard me talking about my gray hairs on my pussy and shit like that. They heard me like it's time I want to fuck this dude. They don't give a fuck. They love it. They love the raunchiness of it.
well, good.
And they love the randomness of it. And it would have been funny if you would threw something random in it. That
Okay.
would have been hilarious.
Well, that's good to know for the next episode.
Awesome. So like when this new movie comes out, I can't wait for it. And you know what? We can talk about another Godzilla movie. We can like watch a really good one, and we can talk about that one also, and just get yourself just like have a drink, not no fireball.
It will be Fireball. Trust me, it will be Fireball.
Ew. Gross. Well, all right then, Sugar Plum. Well, thank you so much. And like next time, just be loose and just be hanging. Even if you have to scratch your balls and be all in your drawers and everything else, just hang back and just do all that and everything. But Sugar, I really love you. And oh my gosh, I was gonna tell you that was my phone that was doing that, but I was like, oh, my pocket really loved you. My pocket said, I'm gonna send this, and I was like, what in the world is this going on? That was my pocket doing that, but I was like, oh, okay. But
That's too.
all right, you take care, and like I'll talk to you later. Thank you so much, and
Sounds
love
fantastic.
you, Sugar.
I love you too. We'll holler at you soon.
All right, bye bye.
Bye.